Paranormal Playback is a podcast where we recap the spooky and entertaining world that is paranormal reality TV. We are hosted by Acast. Warning: Paranormal Playback contains amusing stories about bros, hair gel, and we suspect Axe body spray, as well as dark stories, which may include suicide, pregnancy loss, abortion, sexual assault, and murder. It is intended for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of
red
cabbages
leather,
and
yellow
kings,
leather, red leather,
and why
yellow leather.
the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings.
Tip of the tongue. Tip of the tongue.
All right. Hey, shadow people. How are you guys this week?
Shadow
It is I, Charlie Holly, one of your gracious co-hosts, here with Melanie. Say hi,
Hello,
Mel.
shadowlings. It's Mel.
And Lore.
Hello.
Hello, hello. We are excited to chat with you guys tonight. We wanted to get through a few housekeeping things before we get into today's episode. So we have been having so much fun with the podcast. It's been 1 month. We celebrated our 1 month anniversary on May the 4th. And we've already I don't know, it's wild. We've hit 62 listener or followers on Spotify. 62? Who is she?
Yay!
Thanks to our moms for creating 20
Thank
accounts
you
each.
So much. We're not obsessively checking how many people are listening. That's not
we
happening.
collectively have 62 friends.
Yeah. It is a fine number for our very first month.
I'm very excited.
And just as quickly as we started, we're going to be stopping, but not permanently. We are taking a hiatus because we have hit the ground running with this and we've gotten so many ideas, but I like to say podcasting is not for the weak. And we want to do some regrouping and plan some stuff out for the summer and also get ourselves to a good place for spooky season come September, October. So we're going to take the month of June off and then we will
off live. We're still doing spooky things.
We're not actually taking any time off. But for you all, you will have a little break. You won't be getting any shows in the month of June. So we will be back. The plan is that we will be back with our very first Rosé and readings on June 29th. So stay tuned for that. And
we'll still be on social. So keep following us on social in that hiatus.
Yes, please talk to us and interact with us and all the things. Send us all your ghost stories, please, so that we have plenty for Rosé and readings. We have so many things in the works. We are planning on going to Savannah and doing some ghost hunting ourselves.
Testing out some equipment.
Yes. Please let us know if you are a ghost adventurer yourself, if you investigate if there are certain products that are good versus bad. We want to know what the best product is so we can test them out.
Yes. If you have any recommendations, please send them our way. We're also, in the summer, we'll be releasing episodes of Kindred Spirits and Ghost Adventures Season 1. And then the plan is that in September, October, we're hoping to possibly add in some dead files, some psychic kids, and possibly some practical magic. So I don't know if you guys have heard that Practical Magic is supposed to be making a sequel with Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock. So
get your midnight margaritas ready.
Yes.
We're ready.
We would so appreciate it if you could tell your friends about the pod, or, if you know anybody who likes spooky things, let them know about us, ask them to take a listen. And of course, if you want to rate and review, we definitely accept all of the nice comments. Thank you. You can also hit us up on Instagram and TikTok, like Mel mentioned. And if you want to leave a message for us on our spirit line, you can do that at 404-981-4533. So we'll be looking forward to that. But today, we are going to be covering Ghost Adventures, Season 29, Episode 3, The Glen Tavern Inn in Santa Paula, California. This episode is pretty dark. It is actually about somebody who has previously been on the show who committed suicide after, like 3 months after having been on the show, which is really sad. And we don't take that lightly. We know we have a trigger warning at the beginning of every episode, but we wanted to just add like an extra trigger warning in here because we know this is a sensitive topic and they do lean heavily into trying to speak to this person who took their lives. So that being said, if this is too hard for you to listen to, it's totally okay for you to skip. We would not be offended. And we also just want to let everybody know that in America, you can call or text 988 or go to 988lifeline.org if you or someone you know are struggling with suicidal ideation. But that being said, we are going to head over to episode 3, which is taking place at the Glen Tavern Inn, which is actually a place that Zak and the boys have previously investigated. So, Lauren, I believe you did the same thing I did, but we went ahead and watched the episode where they actually investigated this previously because it felt like we were missing some context.
Oh, you did? You guys both did that?
Yes. Yeah. This was probably one of the days like after you had your surgery or you were planning your daughter's birthday party.
Oh, that makes, yeah. Okay.
So you were too busy, but we were like, oh, let's just go take a look. Lauren, did you end up watching it?
I did. I fell asleep like maybe 3/4 of the way through, but I did watch most of it.
On brand.
Yeah. I literally like fell asleep like with my like computer in my lap.
Well, if anybody wants to go and watch the episode of the Glen Tavern Inn where the guys actually investigate the Glen Tavern Inn, you can. According to Discovery Plus, it is season 8, episode 16. Though if you Google it, it's listed as season 7, episode 29. So that is very confusing. But if you have Discovery Plus, season 8, episode 16 is where you can watch it. And it definitely gives you a little bit more context on what actually happened during the séance they did at that time. In that previous episode, they had gone into much more detail about the location and the things that had happened there that originally caused them to investigate. Back in 2013, when they went to the Glen Tavern Inn, they met with the resident psychic for the family who owned the hotel, Patrick Smith, who appears to be an Irish immigrant who lived in the hotel and was considered the Glen Tavern's oracle. According to Zak and the family, Patrick took his own life 3 months after performing a séance with the Ghost Adventures crew. This was particularly unsettling because before their séance, Billy had done an ovulus session while sleeping in room 307. He had received a handful of words, 2 which read, "Goodbye, Oracle." During the original investigation, Patrick Smith had also predicted that there would be 3 events and one that would severely affect someone at the table, to the degree that it would be stressful, though he felt that it would happen to one of the women at the table. Zak briefly touches on the Glen Tavern Inn's dark history. The lore appears to be tied primarily to the Prohibition era, during which the 3rd floor of the inn was used as a speakeasy and had a lot of dark, tragic things happen. Stabbings, shootings, sexual assault, etc. Those things went unreported because of the secrecy surrounding the speakeasy during the time. And he also loosely touches on the dam break that destroyed the entire town in March 1928, prior to the inn being built. So they believe that the inn had been built possibly like over this
Dead
town
bodies.
or dead bodies.
Yeah.
And I've actually heard about this dam break before, either on My Favorite Murder or And That's Why We Drink. One of them covered it. But it was a huge tragedy. Like they were not prepared for this to happen and it took out a lot of homes. But this brings us to This Old Haunt with Melanie Malone. So tell us the truth, Mel.
All right. Okay. I'm Mel, your head of paranormal quality control. Roll up with a dusty archive box and a raised eyebrow to see if the history actually supports the haunting. Was there really a brothel on the 3rd floor? Did a cowboy named Calvin actually get decapitated over a poker game? Or are we just dealing with another case of Ghosts Gone Wild, fanfiction edition? Let's separate the facts from the fog machines. Here we go. Glen Tavern Inn was built in 1911 in Santa Paula, California, during the oil boom. So think swanky Tudor style stop for oil execs, railroad tycoons, and eventually some Hollywood cowboys. Notable guests: Harry Carey, silent film actor. No verified police records or news reports confirm the rumors of a Prohibition era brothel or murder. So just wanted to call that out.
That arguably is also because it was a
Prohibition.
speakeasy. It was Prohibition. They weren't reporting things.
Yes, that is fair. A murdered sex worker supposedly haunts room 307, but no historical documentation confirms any of this. So a few kind of timeline highlights are, 1911, hotel opens, fancy guests check in. 1920s, Prohibition rumors, 0 records. Between the 40s and the 70s, it's a little meh. Nothing really happens. 80s to 90s, it's half vacant, and we start getting some legends a-bubbling. In 2005, there are new owners who restore the place. And then 2007, there's a renovation and then a fire, some drama, but no injuries. The biggest paranormal claims are that room 307 is rumored to be haunted by that sex worker and a cowboy ghost named Calvin, which is the person rumored to have lost a poker game and been decapitated. Again, no documentation of this. There are ghost tours and events, and then the 3rd floor was closed for decades, which fueled those ghost stories. But this was like a very good episode. Like, I thought this was really good and spooky, and there's some shit I can't explain, like a lot of it. I didn't have many theories.
Oh my gosh, Mel has no theories. Do we need a new song?
Oh my
Mel
gosh.
has no
Should
theories.
Should we make it like a ballad? And that is the end of this old haunt.
Woohoo! Thank you, Melanie.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to be covering, like we mentioned before, the suicide of Patrick Smith. This was also unsettling. Besides the Ovilus recordings that Billy had gotten during that first episode, what was also unsettling was that one of the things that the Ghost Adventures crew was investigating at the Glen Tavern Inn was a hanging that had taken place in a different apartment in that first episode. Another psychic,
suicide.
Yeah, another psychic had predicted it the same day that it happened, which was
it was Patrick.
No, it was a different psychic that they made it sound like it was a different psychic.
No, it was Patrick. Patrick had asked if somebody had committed suicide.
Oh.
And it was literally, and they hadn't discovered the body yet.
That I remember, because I was like, oh my God, it was the same day that it happened. So yes, so Patrick, I didn't realize it was Patrick.
So
Patrick predicted that man.
Patrick was there visiting for the séance. Mm-hmm. And I think he was like kind of walking the grounds, and then
he also lived there.
Okay, that's my thing.
I was really confused.
You fell asleep. So you fell asleep during the first episode.
No, I knew he lived there, but
that was confusing in the episode.
It confused me too. I literally watched. So I watched this episode. Then I went back and watched the old one. Then I watched this episode again, and I was able to make all the connections the second time I watched it. So there were apartments at the hotel that other people lived in. So he actually lived at the hotel, and that's why they considered him the Glen Tavern's oracle. And that's why he considered the people who owned the hotel like his family, because
they really should have clarified that, because I was very confused when Aaron and Greg, when they were in his apartment, and also when they say, Patrick committed suicide here. Obviously that in general carries a weight, but it's very different to say someone committed suicide here versus somebody committed suicide in their home. And those happen to be the same thing.
I think they were expecting people to understand the context.
Which is not the case, which is why we had to go back and watch the old episode. Like, they should have encouraged people, in my opinion, they should have encouraged people to go back and watch the old episode, because it really did help.
Yeah, or like done a little bit more with the flashbacks.
Yeah, there was a lot of context that they missed.
It was like almost like insider baseball. Like
Completely.
they understood the information, so they knew all the like puzzle pieces were like being put together.
It also felt really jarring to me, them starting in the church.
Oh, that
and
was
saying, especially knowing
what happened to Aaron.
What happened with Aaron, I was thinking episode 3 would be when it happened.
I thought the same exact thing. So Lauren, when the episode starts, Zak is saying we're in a church, which is a sacred place because some things have come to light, and Aaron walks in. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're going to talk about Aaron's wife trying to kill him.
Yeah,
and that's not what we were talking about. Also, sorry, we're skipping ahead a little bit, but also what bothered me was that he said some things have recently come to light, but Patrick unalived himself back 3 months after that original episode aired, which was 2013. And I was like, that's not a recent piece of information. Like, he was acting like it was like some new revelation has been exposed.
Oh, I didn't even realize that it happened.
He says
after that seance.
3 months after we recorded.
But did they just tell them? There's no way.
Yep.
So anyway, so the synchronicity of Patrick having previously predicted that somebody was going to kill themselves, and then him also ending up having done that in the same location, and it was another resident who had done it, was just very odd. And it definitely seemed to me like there were some possible dark energies that were tormenting people here, or at least possibly increasing their torment. So if people were already struggling, there was something dark that was like feeding off of that. The tavern did put up a beautiful framed memorial to Patrick. There happens to be a picture of Zak in the memorial, which the hotel owner points out. And Zak, of course, is like, oh my God, guys, look, I'm in the memorial.
Yeah, he was like, oh, that's me right there in the picture.
Like, this is not about you, dude. This is so not about you.
A little sense of decorum there, man. Like, love you, but...
So the first person we meet during their interviews is Dusty. He's the previous bar manager who had actually been the person who found Patrick.
Which is so sad.
It is heartbreaking.
Okay. I want to pause from the sad moment because, yes, this was very sad, but Dusty looked like Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, and I couldn't.
Oh, yeah,
couldn't get past it. I was like, oh, that's really sad.
So fixated.
Just like Jay. Like...
Oh, Dusty.
But yeah,
Dusty's also a great name.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the person who found Patrick. I'd actually prefer not to go into the detail on this, but you can imagine that it was a very sad scene. I personally I think I mentioned this in one of the other episodes. Hangings like really freak me out. So we don't really need to go into it. During this though, they did show us Patrick's actual apartment. And someone is clearly living there now who's like a musician or something. There were like guitars everywhere. And there was more than one disco ball in this apartment. And I kept forgetting that Patrick didn't actually live there. So instead I was picturing Patrick like as somebody who would have disco balls in his apartment. And I was like, oh, I love Patrick so much. And I was like, this is not how his apartment, like he lived there in 2013.
I really wish I had realized that much time had passed because I did not.
Mm-hmm.
I missed that.
But can you imagine being the person who lived there and being like, hey, can we be in your apartment? Because
someone killed themselves here. Yeah.
Somebody killed themselves and we want to channel them in your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we just like borrow your apartment for a little bit?
Well, and what they discover in that apartment, if I watched this episode, like afterward, I'd be like, I think I want to move.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Thank you. So,
or do you even think that they told him what they were doing?
I was thinking that it was probably more vague.
Like, with all their stuff in there?
Maybe they're just like using it as like a video village and they were like actually investigating the hotel.
So they didn't even mention it?
That they were investigating the actual apartment.
It's very possible.
Yeah.
I'm curious. If you're listening and that was your apartment, let us know.
Yeah. What did they tell you?
So we meet.
Is that why they only put Gary and Aaron in there and not like a
right.
whole crew?
They were like, let's not make this too
They just did
suspicious.
the skeleton crew. They
They're
just
like,
put the skeleton crew there.
Look, put all your stuff in your backpack. Be really just dress in all black. Nobody's gonna suspect anything.
Yeah. And the whole crew can't be there because we didn't tell the guy who lives there that's
Exactly. Yeah, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah.
Look away.
No investigating happening here.
All of my notes from this first segment. Sorry.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Bless you. Are they about how he died recently?
No, they're just they're just like a stream of consciousness about how much I'm hoping that this episode, that they didn't make this whole episode centered around trying to contact somebody who took their own life, and how like wrong that it felt. The whole beginning felt fucked up and wrong, and like I'm like, were you really even like you're treating this like a close friend, and
you didn't
it's even
know
worse now
recently?
Like, yeah, you didn't know until a fucking decade later that he died.
The only thing that I gave them a pass on was that if you do go back and watch the previous episode, was Patrick was really into this. So
I think he would have appreciated.
Right. Like there was, you definitely get the sense that like in their minds, they were like, he understands what we're trying to do by contacting him. So maybe we'll have a better chance of contacting him, like that type of thing. So I'll give them a pass on that. But I do.
They should have set that perspective. I think they should have put in,
which is like that's the whole inside baseball thing. It's like, you can't assume that everybody who's watching this has seen that episode and knows exactly what happened. Like,
because it just feels like you're like exploiting this person for
The other thing I'll say is that I also gave them a pass because Patrick in the previous episode refers to the Glen Tavern Inn owners as his family. Like that's kind of like how he views them, and they view him that way. And they are in this episode and they're talking about him. So I think they're also like, to me, it seemed like they were kind of honoring him in that.
Well, and I think that they actually said the owners reached out to Zak. I think the way that they set it up.
So we meet, speaking of the owners, we meet Rosanna, who is the owner of the hotel. She owns it with either her ex-husband or her husband. That part wasn't completely clear to me. And then her daughter, Isha. Pearl, a former employee of the inn, had spoken with Patrick the day before he died. She said he seemed down and agitated. She had asked him if he was okay, and he said he just had a lot of information coming in at the time. Meaning that as a psychic, he was receiving a lot of messages at one time, and it was like feeling really overwhelming for him. Yeah. She said it was as if someone was talking in his ear. She had never seen him like this before and said that he did not seem like himself. Zak poses the question, could it be these voices that Patrick was hearing that are affecting others so deeply? Zak asks Rosanna if she thinks that something dark influenced Patrick. Okay, so Rosanna tells us a story about something she's seen. She says, he was a small person with a little smile, and he started laughing. And then he started jumping real quickly and was going to jump on top of her bed, but she started praying. The reenactment of this.
I wish people could see our memories right now.
Well, for YouTube, Lauren, please share.
I will.
It was.
I will
insane.
Absolutely put screenshots of the reenactments in there.
One, it was terrifying. Two, unnecessary.
It reminded me of American Horror Story.
Completely.
Yes. Or it reminded me of Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah.
The little. Totally. Okay, so for those who haven't watched and are not watching YouTube, the recreation was a little person, like a little man, and he was very muscular, semi-bald, and was smiling with this like little evil demon smile, and then hopping.
The whole room is red too.
The whole room was red. He's hopping like a rabbit towards her bed.
And it's like a fish,
scary.
And it's like a fisheye lens.
It's like a Dutch angle low low shot, like the creepiest shot angles you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Rosanna's daughter, Isha, believes that the inn was built over something that is multidimensional, that is outside of our understanding. She says spirits here find their energetic kin. I thought that was a really nice way of saying it, but she's also very flowery with all of her
Mhm.
words, so it's interesting. She refers to Patrick as an Irish seer, and she says that he brought that sagacious wisdom from Ireland. She says that Patrick felt like the inn was so active that it was like a casino because of how loud it was to him. So he was constantly hearing voices and getting messages. Isha believes that Patrick's problem had to do with isolation, solitude, and melancholy, which sounds like depression,
Mhm.
combined with whatever was going on the third floor. She said there's something dark up there. That seemed like a weird stretch to me, but I guess if you're hearing things in the inn, maybe you can hear them anywhere. I don't know, because
Mhm.
it didn't seem like he was necessarily like living on the third floor.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, how close was his apartment to the third floor?
Far. It's in a different building.
It was like a different building, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when they were investigating it, they had to like pack up all their stuff and then head back to the inn. So like the apartments were like part of the inn, but they weren't actually attached.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was probably like the old servants' quarters or something like that they
Mm.
turned into apartments. Zak says there were rumors of murders and a beheading that supposedly took place on the third floor. Isha tells us that the energetic alchemy of the third floor. This is what I'm talking about with her flowery words.
Yeah.
The energetic alchemy of the third floor is this revelation of darkness.
What is that even?
I don't know.
The energetic alchemy. Okay.
So many
Mel.
words.
Energy
Mel,
mixture.
word salad.
It is word salad.
Word salad.
The energy mixture
of
on
the third floor is dark.
a realization
of dark.
That's not
And she thinks that there's a gatekeeper up there.
a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm. And she said something like, it's a gatekeeper, so anybody who dies up there is trapped. And they like
Ooh.
can't leave the third floor, is what she made it
No.
sound like.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Rosanna says that the hotel is full of synchronicities. This bothered me because they use this word a whole lot for things that were not true synchronicities. And I was very annoyed. I was like, stop saying that there's synchronicities when I have not seen a single synchronicity except for in the previous episode when Patrick predicted somebody hung himself and then Patrick went on to have the same fate. I almost knocked a cup off of my desk.
Okay. And for everyone, the definition of synchronicities is meaningful coincidences, seemingly unrelated events that occur simultaneously and feel connected or relevant to a specific person or situation.
Like 2 episodes ago, we were all wearing black tank tops.
Mhm.
And today you can't tell right now, but we all happen to be wearing white t-shirts. That is a synchronicity.
Yeah. Or here's some examples. Thinking of a friend and then receiving a call from them.
Yes. What is not a synchronicity, which Zak will say later, is that he had a musician on the original episode, and now there's a musician on this episode.
Yeah, no.
I'm sorry, Zak. You plot these episodes. That is not a true synchronicity. You planned who was going to be on this episode. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
So Rosanna says the hotel is full of synchronicities, and if they pay attention to them and line them up, they could access new information.
I don't think anything she says makes sense.
I was like, okay.
Like, the more I think about it, the more confused I am. What do you mean if we pay attention? Pay attention to what?
Pay attention and line them up.
What is she saying is a synchronicity, though?
She doesn't say.
It's full of them, but you got to pay attention, Lauren. You got to find them.
Lauren,
and you got to line them up.
They never explain it until Zak starts making up his own synchronicities. They never actually explain like what she's talking about. So anyway, we now meet Victor and Jasmine. They are paranormal investigators. They also happen to have an experience in room 307 like Billy. Room
Oh.
307 is the room where Billy got the messages on the Ovilus, and also where the prostitute was the sex worker was supposedly beheaded.
I didn't get a chance to bring up how funny I found Billy dramatically standing in the doorway of 307, which happened at the very beginning of the episode when they were doing the weird like church moment.
And he's like, I'm back.
And they were like, Billy spent the night in room 307.
Okay, so they all head up to the third floor. Jay is recording on a 360-degree binaural microphone.
What is a 360-degree microphone?
I do not know.
I mean, I get like, that's a rhetorical question.
I know it's facetious, but
aren't all microphones kind of 360?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, this one is not.
I know.
The one we're talking
but that
into.
doesn't seem like a feature.
I don't know.
I would hope that if you're investigating, you're using a microphone that picks up from all sides, right?
When we do our investigation, we're going to have to figure out, do we get the gold beryllium microphone or do we get a 360-degree binaural microphone?
I bet it's both of those. Are these things mutually exclusive?
Can
it not be both?
Have no idea.
Because just a standard microphone is 360, right? Like your average run-of-the-mill principal talking in the auditorium microphone. You can talk into all the sides, the top.
Well, no, I don't know. What does binaural mean?
Binaural.
Anyway, Billy has the XLS. Billy has the XLS recording as well. I listened back. I think we debated in the last episode whether or not it was XLS or SLS. It is XLS, and I think it is a better version of the SLS. That is kind of what I've made of this. Eventually, we'll watch the episode where it's introduced, and then we'll figure all of that out. So Zak explains that he is going to be talking to Patrick a lot. He feels that because Patrick was familiar with what they do in life, he will now understand what they're trying to do now that he's on the other side. So just before they enter room 307, Zak receives the message, "Baby, pray," on the Ovilus. I was like, who do you think was speaking to him in that moment? I have no idea.
No clue.
Maybe the sex worker? I'm like, who called him baby? Billy looks in the XLS camera and sees a huge figure standing next to Zak. Aaron gets really energized by this and creates a whole story about it. He says, "It's like your energy, Zak, has come out of your body, and there's another energy next to it, and you guys are swatting at each other's faces and fighting. Dude, it's like a martial arts fight." If you watch it, I did not see Zak's energy come out of his body. I was like, what is Aaron talking about? He was
clearly using his
imagination,
medium powers. Or I don't know. I truly think there was some sort of substance up there after Mr. Corn has like a euphoric fucking experience.
That they like took shrooms or something.
Yeah, I'm
before
like,
the episode.
Something's in those air ducts up there that they have not checked on.
That would either be really fun or really terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ghost hunting on shrooms.
It could go either way.
I'm going to go the terrifying route.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a very like fine line.
Yeah. It's like you can tip over there in like a happy setting and it's not
yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
So Zak tells everyone that he just got a message from the Ovilus that says scratch. And Yasmin immediately leans over to Zak and says, "Zak, I have a weird feeling like someone is going to get hurt."
Yeah.
I said, "You mean because he just said the word scratch?" Like,
yeah.
Did that trigger you?
Provide a lot of substance to the episode.
Nobody got hurt. I was like, what is she talking about? They finally enter room 307, and Victor begins telling us what happened to him in there. He said they were in room 307 doing a spirit box session and asking what was found in the closet because a decapitated head was found in there. And he said he received the word head. Now, if you go back and watch the original investigation, you would be very familiar with this story about a sex worker being beheaded and found in the closet, because in this episode, they went as far as to quite literally recreate this scene using a headless, bloody mannequin or
fell asleep.
sex doll that was staged to be laying in the closet, and then also at one point standing headless in the dark hallway with blood on it. And I was like, why are we being
The recreations
why is it this graphic?
are
This is
so
intense.
unnecessary.
I definitely fell asleep for that part.
Lauren, you need to go back and watch
I
it
do.
because at first when they show it like it's a still, I thought it was actual photos from the actual crime scene. And I was like,
my God.
what
Well,
am
that
I
doesn't
looking at
exist.
right now?
There's no documentation that it ever happened, so.
Well, this is what they showed. So they really went to lengths to make me believe that this actually happened.
That's crazy.
Insane. Also, kind of disrespectful to the sex worker. And it was like, manipulating women's bodies when she has no head. So like, she's just a piece of meat type of thing.
And you know that they're all like laughing while like putting together the scene.
I was like, some PA was having a lot of fun with this.
Yeah. They're all like,
yeah. I would really hate.
I love my job.
I would really hate to be the person doing the recreations. I'd be like, I'm gonna get fucking cursed.
I get paid to do this.
Right, exactly. So it was like, we have seen some crazy recreations from them, but that recreation was one of the craziest that I have seen. I was like, oh my God, I hope Lauren is watching this. Anyway, so Victor says he started getting this overwhelming get out feeling, and then heard a loud bang and realized he needed to get out of there. Zak starts using the ovulus in the room and asks, what did you do to Patrick? Okay. The ovulus reads, slain, day 9.
Did day 9 ever have any significance?
No.
Okay.
I wondered that too. But I was like, well, he died 3 months after. So like at first I was like, oh my God, was that when he died? But then I was like, no.
So I did just look up if day 9 means anything, just in general. The 9th day holds significance in various cultures and religions, often representing completion, transition, and remembrance. In some traditions, it marks the end of a period of fasting or ritual, while in others, it's associated with mourning or commemorating historical events. So in Jewish, Hinduism, Islam, forgive me, I'm going to say this wrong, Baha'i, Christianity, the 9th day is like a thing.
Okay.
It could be like, what if he was suffering for 9 days? Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Anyway, Zak says he feels like he can't breathe. Surprise, surprise. Zak has a breathing problem. And that it feels heavy in the room. Then he screams, oh my God, Billy, get in here right now. Because the ovulus says heavy. But I will go back to my original theory that if it can channel what people are thinking, maybe
Spirits.
it just channeled
Yeah.
what Zak just said about it feeling heavy in there and then spat it back out to him.
Yeah.
You never know. I actually would like to test this. I want us to get an ovulus and I want us to do a test.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we'll think of like a number or something and not tell what we're thinking and see if it like comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So Zak starts freaking out and he says, this is validating to us that those messages you received in 2013 were delivered by whatever this is.
That confused me. How
did this validate anything?
Nothing about that moment solidified the earlier moment
No.
in my mind.
No. I was like, because it got the word heavy when you said it was like things were heavy. How does that validate what Billy got way back when? It wasn't like it said, like it wasn't, well, maybe the slain, when he asked about Patrick and it said slain, that would be validation to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The other part was not validation.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe that was just like, no, it wasn't a mess up in editing. He said it in the room right then.
No, he was very excited.
He was very excited. Oh, I did.
Yes.
His glasses were better this time, by the way. And I noticed the finger gloves
He brought the finger gloves back.
because it felt very
How
Avril
do I
Lavigne.
keep missing the finger gloves?
Yeah, Lauren, you gotta look at his hands.
You do. I was like, what on earth is this like skater boy vibe that's happening?
He has I know, like as you get older, your hands age, and so some people will wear gloves. But I'm like, he's not that old, and
No, he's like 44.
no, I'm like people who are in their 70s do that. Like,
Yeah.
and it's not like he's in areas that are cold.
And it's not like his job requires him to work in the sunlight outside a lot.
No, at the Winchester Mystery House, he said it was like 80 degrees in there, and he had on like a jacket and fingerless gloves.
It's because he has a stylist, guys. Let's get real. He's got a stylist.
I don't even want to know who his stylist is. Okay, so this
All
is
right. If you're Zak Bagans' stylist,
if you're
give us
Zak
a
Bagans'
call.
stylist, please come forward. And tell
That would
us.
be
show
a
yourself.
funny haunting thing, like, you know, way in the future when everyone dies peacefully and naturally in their sleep.
How did we get here?
If Zach's stylist was like, who should I haunt? You know what? I'm gonna haunt
My
Zach.
stylist.
And I'm gonna haunt Zach, and the idea of like a stylist ghost haunting,
telling him
is
like
very-
his wardrobe is trash.
yeah, or
I'm
like
haunting you because what
or
you're wearing
like
is garbage.
messing with him to like make him look bad in whatever he's wearing. You know, like accidents keep happening to anything that looks good in his wardrobe.
He
And
just always pours red wine on him. He's
Yeah.
only wearing black.
Or like misplace his socks.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is a 2-day investigation. So the
I
first,
think they all are this season.
I guess they all are. Yeah,
it kind
you're
of
right.
seems like
So this first day, they decided to do a sleepover.
I enjoyed that. This is where I wrote. Well, it's funny because the first thing I said was I don't like that he's talking to Patrick, but I wrote this is a good episode. This feels like Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, like they
to
all.
me.
I like that he said that they all got to pick a room.
Yeah,
Like they didn't tell them what room to go in. They were just like, everybody pick a room, go in there.
Mhm.
They're spreading out across the hotel and just seeing what happens.
and they were there. They were like in the rooms experiencing things, not in a garage watching a monitor.
Yeah.
It just
Agreed. Or having a seance in a dining room.
yeah. I'm like, what did even? I was actually rethinking the Houdini episode, and I was like, they literally only did that was it. They just did a seance for like 5 seconds.
I saw on Reddit somebody was like, really? That's it? We didn't even investigate. We just did a seance.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it kind of like pulled one over on us where I was like, wait, what did we even do here?
No, this one they definitely do investigate, which I enjoyed.
This was good.
Yeah.
So they all head into their bedrooms. We see Zach in night vision in his bedroom, and he has a spirit box going. He says, "Can you tell me your name? I know who you are." And then we hear the spirit box clearly say, "Fight you." So whoever this is wants to have.
I don't think the spirits ever like Zach.
No, they all want to fight him. I want to fight him.
He was like really mean to them for a very long time.
They're all holding grudges from like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, Zach explains to us that now it is night 2. So the sleepover's over. We're on to our next day or night. Once again, he is wearing his fingerless gloves, like we said.
I'm so mad I missed this.
Don't worry, they'll be back.
Yeah.
I'll pay attention next time.
Yeah. He wants us to understand just how interesting this place is. He says, we already knew about all of the synchronicities that I believe.
He just
I didn't even know.
that
I'm
word.
shocked I didn't notice that he said that word
so many times. Can we like add a counter for the number of times I've had to say the word synchronicity? So he says, we already know that. And we already knew about all of the synchronicities that I believe the spirits are trying to put in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
I said, what synchronicities? Am I missing something? What the fuck is the same? Please explain this to me. So now Zach makes this wild claim of a synchronicity. He says, a lot of things happened here and are continuing to happen here. Last night, I had a dream. I was using an ITC device and the SB7 spirit box. And in this dream, I was with a very dear friend of mine. And him and I were both using this device. We were hearing a woman coming through it screaming, blood curdling. I immediately texted my friend, and I want to introduce my friend. Then he segues to the fact that his friend in his dream was also his friend who was going to be on this episode, Jonathan Davis, the lead singer of Korn. Jonathan says that Zak's text stuck with him. I wonder what the heck is going on. And now I'm here. Okay. Yeah. I was like, this does not seem particularly interesting or relevant, but okay. Then he continues that the device I was using in the dream was an SB7 spirit box designed by Gary Galka. Zak says, Gary, I want you to come here. And now brings out Gary Galka.
It's kind of like explain the way he set it up, though. Like he's on the lawn of the hotel.
He's on the lawn of the hotel. He's
kind of like set up like almost like a game show,
mm-hmm.
like a host.
Right. Next contestant, come down.
Yeah, like exactly. Like he's like kind of like talking to the camera like he's a host,
mm-hmm.
you know, and like we don't really see anybody on camera, and then that's when we see Jonathan Davis from Korn like come into frame like a contestant.
He made this whole thing up about, and don't get me wrong, maybe he did have that dream, but I have if I know I'm gonna be, I don't know, going to Six Flags in a few days or something, like I might have a dream about Six Flags. Like, it's not strange, Zak, to have a dream about the guy who's your friend who's going to be on the show. And
my understanding was that he wasn't going to be on the show. He had him on the show because he had the dream.
Same.
He wasn't actually going to be on the show until he had the dream.
I do not think that's true.
I mean, I don't think it was true, but I think that's
how he tried to set it up.
Here I am on the other side. I actually could see that being a thing because they all live in LA, you know, like they're in California. He does seem like he's buddies.
Where does Gary Galka live?
With him. And
I mean, I could see Gary Galka being like
a planned
guest, but I don't think Jonathan Davis was a planned guest.
Yeah.
Like, I think he had the dream and then he like texted and he's like, hey, I need you to be on the show.
Also, why does Zak why does he literally look exactly like the Korn singer? Like, they were standing side by side. And I was
they looked nothing alike.
I didn't think they looked alike.
They were wearing, other than like obviously the hair, go back and look at them standing next to each other. It's like, I don't know if Zak is trying to, no, Zak, I mean, he has his own look, but they very much had like the black rim glasses. Maybe it's because they're all wearing black, but I think they both had beards, but I mean, they looked very...
I'll go back and look.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So I wanted to make a note here. Like all of this to me just seemed like such a stretch and so silly. And then I was like, do you think we're dumb? Like to me, it just felt like very staged. And I felt like maybe like a producer planned this whole scene and Zak just went along with it. But I do want to just call out that Gary Galka, he is the guy who invented the SB7 spirit box, but I don't know if I cut it out of a previous episode, but I know I had mentioned this before, Mel, that there is an episode where they do an investigation with the guy who invented the SB7 spirit box because his daughter had passed away and he had developed the spirit box as a way to communicate with her. That's
him.
That's
got it.
That's so sad.
It's that episode is one of the saddest episodes. Like, it's heartbreaking, but I really
Do you know if he was ever able to communicate with her?
Yeah, they communicated with her all the time through it. Like, to the point that I almost felt like maybe it wasn't the healthiest. like that's what makes that episode really sad, is that it almost feels like their need to cling to her in the afterlife now is becoming like a crutch, and like they're unable to move on because they now have the spirit box. So we definitely will watch that episode. It's a tough one, but it's worth it. Zach continues to act like it was a synchronicity that he had singer Mimi Page at the séance in 2013, and now they have a singer present for this investigation. And then I said, as if they didn't plan for Jonathan to be at this investigation.
It was bound to be a singer or an actor. You're in.
Well, no, if you guys are right, if they did not actually plan for him to be on this episode, then that is a synchronicity. But to me, it just felt planned. So I was like, I don't see how that is, but who knows? Zach explains that the goal tonight is to speak to Patrick, but he's also concerned about the process in doing that, if whatever affected him could also come through. Gary reminds Zach that we have no control over what comes through the spirit box. But then Gary says, which this was confusing because Gary they didn't have him clearly introduce the device he was using. But what he says is, there won't be any more trying to interpret what they are saying. You're going to hear it. You'll hear words. So what he is referring to, and I actually Googled it because I was like, oh, can you buy this thing? Like I was trying to figure it out. He is referring to a new research device that he has created, but it's specifically for research. It's not something that's being sold to the public. And it makes the audio that they capture much clearer, and it can actually pick up like sentences. So there's no more trying to interpret like one
Single
word
words.
here, one word. Yeah.
It did seem like a prototype kind of thing.
Yeah, he called it, I think, a Radio X. Yeah. So we finally get inside the inn. Zach introduces us to a new piece of equipment, a parabolic microphone. So this one I definitely saw, Mel, whereas the other one I didn't really make a mental note of. But this one was like a satellite dish shape, but it was small and attached to the microphone on the camera.
It looks like what a spy would use.
Yeah. Or like to try to pick up somebody really far away.
Mm-hmm.
But it was small and attached to the microphone on the camera to make it extra sensitive. And then it's connected to a monitor that's also connected to the full spectrum camera, which again
is the UV.
Yeah, that's the UV one. They tried to see what they could get on the first and second floors, but nothing happened. So they go up to the third floor. Gary and Aaron are set up with his Radio X device in Patrick's old apartment to see if they can communicate with him. As soon as the guys move up to the third floor inside the inn, Aaron and Gary start receiving communication inside Patrick's apartment. And again, I know we mentioned this before, but Patrick's apartment is like some apartments or something that were separate from the inn. They're part of the inn, but they're not actually connected to the inn. Gary tells the spirits, so guys, I love the way he talks to them too, like just like they're people. He's not shouting. He's just talking normal. This is the way it should be done. He says, so guys, the way this is going to work, it's up to you now to start manipulating some of the stuff. Aaron says, can you do that? Yes or no? We immediately hear a voice come across saying, of course. Aaron suddenly hears a woman talking, and they both seem to hear a disembodied scream coming from the apartment. Then we cut back to Zach and Korn on the third floor.
Coming from the apartment, not from the sound machine in the apartment.
Yes, it was a disembodied scream coming from inside the apartment. We think inside the apartment.
Which is creepy.
Yeah, not through the...
Yeah. We cut back to Zach and Korn on the third floor. Zach says he's starting to feel weird again outside room 307. He says, it's that fucking room. I can't be in that fucking room, man.
Who says that?
Zach. Who else would say that?
This was my first, I think, experienced bout of anger that you spoke to, Lauren.
Oh,
yes.
Bout of rage.
You see more, though.
Oh, yeah. I know. I
was like, ooh, Mel got to see it.
I should have recorded my face when it happened because I was like,
what are we doing?
I wrote notes. I was like, Mel got to see it.
Zach sits on the couch on the third floor, and Billy starts shooting him with the XLS camera. Jonathan then joins him on the couch. Immediately, there is a huge figure. It looks like it's kind of standing on top of the table or doing like a Captain Morgan stance on the end table next to Zach. And honestly, it's like moving weird. Like it looks like it's doing some sort of weird dance. But I also think that's just the way the XLS camera picks up things.
Because it never stays still. If you ever see a figure on an XLS or SLS.
Even when it's on like...
It's
Zach,
always like
on Zach or on...
it's like jittery.
Yeah, on Jonathan, like when they showed it on both of them, theirs was also moving weird. So that isn't the actual motion that the figure's making. But Aaron says, whoa, dude, it has its foot on your neck. Zach stands up and the figure starts playing with Zach's head. He says, guys, I just felt something on the left side of my head and my hair. While all this is happening, suddenly the iPad that they're watching the XLS camera on starts to just rotate forward and falls. Zach starts grilling Billy on whether or not he's touched the iPad all night. Bro, did you touch it? No, bro. Bro, you swear, bro? You didn't touch it? I swear, Zach, I didn't fucking touch it. It was an intense argument over the iPad. I was like, geez, leave him alone. And now the figure is gone. So I think that possibly the figure distracted them with the iPad and then disappeared.
This is one where I guess I am like...
You're like, it just fell forward.
Yeah, because if you've ever had like a tightened something, I mean, our freaking microphones.
Like, eventually.
It'll just like... That just means you didn't tighten it. And when he's like, it's tight now. I'm like, well, yeah, you put it back up and then you tightened it. Of course it's tight now.
Yeah.
Like it's locked now.
Yeah.
I was like, that was not why I would do.
No.
And I don't know why it would need you to look away, the spirit, for it to go away.
Look over there.
Yeah. I don't want you to see me. You know? Or it's very much like a scary movie.
I don't want you to see where I'm going.
Where the
like
killer is like, where they show him like run really fast to get out of frame when they turn back around. Like,
I need to watch that again. That's one I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So Zach is amped and feeling overwhelming anger. He tells Billy he could pick him up and throw him. Billy asks Jonathan to ask a few things basically to distract Jonathan, by the way. I don't know if you noticed that, but he's like, yeah, Jonathan, ask it a few questions. And then they start whispering to each other. And Jonathan says, I want to know what's so attracted to you, Zach. As Jonathan is asking questions, Billy whispers to Zach and he's like, it's gone right now. It's in you, bro. That's what it is. That's what it is. Like they don't want to tell Jonathan that Zach's possessed right now.
Yeah.
So awkward. Zach, I wonder if like Jonathan watched this back and was like, whoa, what the hell, man? Zach says he keeps getting this emotional thing where he feels like he's going to start bawling. And then after that, I feel strong. Like I could pick you all up and throw you. Zach acts like he's looking at the monitors and then he suddenly screams loudly like a rage shout. Y'all want to give it your best try?
Mel, this is what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know.
Bouts of rage. This is what he does every time.
And I saw the like black figure or whatever on the screen, and I was like, all right, what's going on? Zach's like burping spirit bubbles now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Zach says he feels like that just built up and he had to expel it. They look back at the XLS monitor and see a dark ball hover past the left side of the screen. Zach thinks that when he shouted, the entity left his body. And that's what that black ball was. Back in Patrick's apartment, Aaron and Gary are still explaining the equipment to the spirits. Gary explains that they'll never see this device again, so they should take advantage of this opportunity, which I thought was cute. Mm-hmm. He is right. I Googled it, and the device he is using is not sold in stores. So I was like, odds are they will never see this again. And then they catch a female voice saying, ghost hunters will help him. And then a voice says, they are returning. Then we hear another voice say, there needs to be some rest. There needs to be some closure.
Okay. The first thing that went to my head when they said ghost hunters will help them was, isn't that like a competitive show of theirs?
Oh, ghost hunters.
Yeah, ghost hunters.
Yeah.
And I thought like that's why Aaron got all upset. He was like, oh, and I thought he was like, oh, ghost hunters. Not like the title of ghost hunter. So maybe ghost hunters at
Like-
ghost hunters, you need to
like-
help Patrick out.
like call ghost hunters and not ghost adventures.
And then they were like, yeah, don't worry. They're returning. They're going to be here next week.
Yeah, I mean, I that was my first thought was, oh, ghost hunters.
That's so funny.
I thought this was interesting, though. I mean, they caught like full sentences. It sounded clear. And even the female voice sounded like she had like a Spanish accent or Hispanic accent, if you like listen closely. And I was like, well, that is pretty accurate for like, I mean, the people who owned, I don't know if they were Hispanic or not, but the people who owned the place seemed like they may have been, and like people who live in that area are. So I was like, oh, it's interesting that you can actually hear the accent. Okay. So now we are on the 3rd floor, and Korn starts saying that the last few rooms they were in, he felt like this thing was hanging out in the chairs. He says that they keep putting the cameras in front of those chairs, but he swears there's something to the chair. They notice,
Jonathan's in no way sober, right?
you know, he has to be high or something.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't think he's drunk, but like,
He's on something.
Also, what room was the chair in? Because it wasn't 307.
It was the room that Zach slept in, which was 308.
oh yeah,
Okay.
right next
I don't
to it.
know why he chose to sleep in the room right next to it, but
Okay.
I only noticed that because the room that Zach slept in had like a weird pole in the middle. Like it
Yes,
looked
it
like a
did.
stripper pole. And I was
did.
like, what is this? It actually reminded me of not a gimbal, but like there are camera tripods that
Mhm.
are similar. They look like
Oh.
stripper poles, but you can attach a camera to it. And I was like, is that a piece of
It was a
equipment?
very bizarre wide angle view too. It was like an A-frame, and then you had the stripper pole, and I was like very confused by that.
Yeah. That was the room that had the chair.
I was like, is there like a balcony that I was very confused by like where we were.
the ghost was doing a strip tease for Zach that night.
Yeah.
He
It
paid
did-
extra.
It was a very
for it.
random pole. Maybe it was a pipe in the center of the room
It was so strange.
for some reason.
A camera rig.
That's what I think it may have been a camera rig, but I don't know. So they notice that the bed is in disarray, and Korn says that it was like that when he came in. It's particularly weird because every corner of the bed was untucked, and the comforter was kind of like in a ball in the middle of the bed, which somebody could have done that easily, but it was very like specific. It wasn't just like crumpled. It was like in a ball. Billy says that he is starting to see some weird mass forming on the left side of the XLS camera. So this is another example of what Mel was saying.
Mhm.
This was not a stick figure, but it was on the XLS camera, and it was like, it was closer, and you could tell it was closer in the frame to the camera. You could kind of see a head and a shoulder forming, but then the shape was also projecting its own shadow.
Oh,
Which
I know. I saw that.
I was like, how is that happening?
I have no idea.
It was so strange. And when you looked at the actual, like the wall, there was nothing, there was absolutely nothing there. So I was like, what could possibly be creating that? I don't know. It was strange.
Yeah.
And how was it picking up a shadow?
I know.
Unless it's like a different plane where there's like an astral plane kind of thing where there's light and it can have a shadow, because there's not light on this plane for it to cast a shadow.
Well, I did write down, Mel, it's a shadow person.
But it can't be a shadow.
Wait.
Oh.
I said, Mel, it's a shadow person with a shadow.
Ah!
Oh my God.
So
The world
meta.
is ending.
So many. Lauren, in episode 2, when we were when Mel first met shadow people, she
Yeah.
was really struggling to understand that they are not casting shadows, that they just
Well, I thought
are
it was
the
just a shadow
Of something.
figure
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I thought they saw a shadow and were like, it's something.
Yeah.
But
So
I didn't realize it meant it wasn't.
it
There
just
was
looks like
no
a
way
shadow.
of light to yeah, whatever. It still
Mhm.
kind of confuses me. But
It's confusing. And in this case, we had a shadow person who has a shadow. So who knows?
everything's made up and the points don't matter.
We're back in the apartment, and Aaron tells Patrick that they have to leave the apartment and meet everyone else inside the inn. He says the table is starting to get cold, and he like asks Gary, he's like, do you feel that? It's getting cold. They suddenly hear a voice on the device say, hello, in a voice that sounds a lot like Patrick to me. And then the same voice
He
says,
really did.
I've been listening. Aaron excitedly asks if this is Patrick and tells him we're about to leave. We hear a female voice say, we'll get Patrick, which was confusing because I was like, really thought that was Patrick, but maybe it wasn't. And then she says, we'll get Patrick. I feel so bad. Like, and that made me so, I
know.
hate the idea that people on the other side are either suffering or trapped or like if they were tormented in life. I don't want to believe that you're also tormented in death. Like it just really, I don't know.
Or trying to reach loved ones and not being able to reach them.
Yeah.
You know, like just always trying to communicate and not being able to.
Well, this part, if I was the person who lived in this current apartment, would make me move. We then hear what sounds like Patrick say, the monsters inside my house.
I didn't hear that. I heard the monsters inside my head.
Oh
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so curious.
I thought I heard house, but it's because they also said house. So
They said house. Yeah. Interesting.
I'll have to play that back.
Monster is inside his house.
The monsters inside. The monsters inside.
Okay. So now we're back on the third floor. Zak and Jonathan head over to room 308, which is where Zak had slept last night. Zak asks Corin. Corin is Jonathan, sorry. I flip-flopped on what I was referring to him as here. Zak asks him, why do you keep being drawn to the chair? He says, because I like these chairs. I don't know, man. He says it makes him...
be in every episode because it's so entertaining.
His explanations are just like so vague. He's just like, I don't know. I'm just following my spirits. Following my spirit guide. It's telling me to go to these chairs.
Yeah.
He says it makes him feel like whatever this is, it would be sitting right here watching you. At the same time, Jonathan Corin starts having a reaction. He groans, or sounded like kind of like a moan to me.
Yeah, well, he does say it was
sexual.
euphoric. Like he's like, I want to get back in the chair. Like,
it got weird.
It got a little weird.
It got a little
weird.
He's hugging himself with his eyes closed, like he's high, and he says he feels like there's 100 pounds on his shoulder. He also is making this face where he looks really happy. But then what he says after looking really happy is creepy.
What he said was so fucked up.
What did he say?
So he says, I love Lauren's on the edge of her seat. She's like, what did he say?
Ooh. I love this reality show recap. Tell me more.
So he jumps up out of the chair and says, yeah, bro, I can't take this anymore. Zak tells us that Jonathan told him that when he was sitting in the chair, he had visions of women being tortured by very bad men. That was not the expression he had on his face. He looked like he was enjoying whatever he was seeing. So that's creepy if he was enjoying watching the women being tortured by very bad men.
Yeah, it didn't connect unless he was taken over by the person enjoying torturing the
maybe
women, you know, like that's the only thing I can think of. But
yeah,
I'm just like, how do you just casually say that,
right?
And not
exactly.
I'd be like, I need you to elaborate.
And he also like didn't show Jonathan saying it. He like shared it after. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And maybe it was more than just being tortured, and he didn't want to say that. So that's what I'm guessing. So of course, Zak now has to sit in the chair because Zak can't,
Of course,
not have an experience. He says that he just had a heart palpitation, and Jonathan agrees that this thing messes with your heart. So Zak says, I feel like I'm back in my dream again, and you're in the dream again, and I'm wondering if this is all happening. And Billy helps clarify this. I love Billy's like, I speak Zak. Hold on one second. What he's trying to say is, it feels like it's messing with your reality. Zak says, yeah, it's euphoric. Jonathan sits in the chair again while Zak decides to head downstairs to look for Jay. As he approaches the second floor, he sees the door to the, I guess there's like doors to each floor. He sees the door to the second floor open and shut on its own. They capture the audio of this happening on one of the cameras, but they did not have a clear shot of the door itself. But you can hear Zak shouting for Jay, and then you hear what sounds like a door opening and closing.
and it's clear.
Yeah.
Crystal
A lot of
clear.
that going on in this place.
Yeah. Aaron and Gary meet all of them back on the second floor of the inn, and Zak tells Gary, I want to take you up to a specific room. They are all talking about how the spirit energy in this place makes you dizzy. They were acting so weird, which to me was interesting that they were all acting like they were on like a boat or something, like the floor was moving. I was like, what is
For
going
real,
on?
yeah.
I was like, is there like a CO2 leak here?
That's
like,
what I felt like. The third floor was closed off for a long time. Like, what is in the air?
Yeah. Gary said that, so they were talking about how it makes you feel dizzy. He also feels a softness in the floor. He says he feels pressure in both sides of his ears and he feels off balance. As they walk into room 308, Gary heads immediately to the same chair that Jonathan and Zak were sitting in. Keep in
Which
mind,
I thought was crazy.
Gary
Yeah.
did not know about the chair.
Yeah.
So that was definitely weird. And Gary comes off as pretty authentic to me. He doesn't come off
Same.
as like
He does.
an actor.
Joey. Yeah.
Mhm. So Gary closes his eyes and says that his knees are shaking a little bit. And then he says he feels like his whole body is shaking. He says it's coming up through my body. So Zak creepily says, let it in, with a smile on his face. Gary says, all right, let's go. I love his attitude about this. He's like, all right, let's just do this. I said, what the fuck? There's no way in hell that I'd be like, sure, I'll let this unknown entity enter my body now.
Yeah, because like, how do you get it out?
Well, and like, let's think about the whole reason you're investigating and what you're investigating, and
Yeah.
does it really seem like a good
exactly.
idea?
So I want to pause for 1 second here and just point out that in the first episode, when Billy was sleeping in room 307, he had gotten messages on the Obulus, but then he also had an experience, and this is not the first time they've ever experienced this. He was definitely encountering a sexual spirit and felt
that touched
something
him.
touching his thigh.
Mm-hmm.
And the way all the guys are acting in this chair
Hmm.
makes me think that whatever they're feeling was euphoric and
Yeah.
possibly sexual, and they're just not saying it. So,
Oh, and they're like all kind of like
yeah.
experiencing it and being like, hey, check this out kind of thing.
He's like, let it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So-
if it was a brothel, like that.
Yeah. Or, I mean, it was
True.
a sex worker who died, who was supposedly decapitated in room 307.
Yeah.
So,
Can you imagine the head she can get?
No.
Oh, it's wrong on so many levels. Okay. So now Gary says, here's what's happening. Something is trying to get into my body and something else is trying to fight it out. He says it's a pull and a take, a yin and a yang.
Hmm.
Gary says, you could not pay me to sleep in this room. Then they catch a few orbs on the camera while investigating room 307 in another room. I think it was like the room across from it. Zak says Jonathan has become obsessed with the chair and asks if he can take it with him. I love how Zak says this is odd. So he was like, which is odd. And I'm like, is it odd, Zach? Is it odd that he wants the chair? Are you sure you don't want it for your museum collection? Like, you're the king of collecting haunted things.
I'm sure they were fighting over it.
I'm sure. They then head down to the entry room where there is the same table that they did their séance in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
They decide to do an SB7 spirit box session here. And we actually see an orb fly up from under the table. And Zach says, and along the contours of my back.
Yeah.
along my rippling pectorals.
My muscular back.
Hey, man, he works hard for those muscles.
Zach
Let him show them off.
Zach asks if there's anything attached to him. And the spirit box says, I love that the spirit box said, It was like, everything. Zach asks if there are any people Patrick misses at the hotel. And almost immediately you hear the spirit box say, my family.
And it sounds just like him.
It did. We see a memoriam to Patrick with a black and white photo of him. Zach asks if they all feel better now that they're not on the third floor. Gary's like, yeah, I feel balanced. I feel fresh. Jonathan says, I had the most amazing experience up there. I said, I think Corn liked that feeling a little too much.
Yeah, that was funny.
And of course, Zach ends this with, this was an amazing, unforgettable investigation.
Historical.
Iconic.
Oh, it's always historical. I guess the last thing I wrote was, but how did the ghost hunters help Patrick?
They didn't.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, to your point,
they reached out to him, but they didn't help him, you know?
Well,
yeah.
and that...
Well, I think
right,
it was,
like,
my comment was based on something that they said, like I thought they said they helped, but I was like, but how did you help? But you didn't.
Zach said a handful of things towards the end that I didn't write down. I just wrote down his unforgettable line. But yeah, he may have said something about helping him. I don't think they helped him at all.
Well, the thing is they were going to look into the dark entity, but they didn't really look into the dark entity. They,
Well, and if he said the monster's inside my house, if that's what they thought he said, why didn't they do like a cleansing on the apartment or something? Like, and that's what kindred spirits, which we're going to do, that's what they do. They actually try to help whatever's happening. They don't just leave it open-ended.
They're like, okay, this place is fucked. Peace.
Exactly.
Well, no, seriously, because kindred spirits actually go to their location for a week.
Yeah, like
not,
they do
not just 2 days.
They do it
like they actually go there for an entire week. Yeah. And because everything that Ghost Adventures does is so surface level. It's like they get like an EVP and they'll get like little things here and there, but it's never like anything more than that.
Right.
Like, they don't find anything out. Really.
They spend so much time on interviewing and like creating the story that they don't.
I don't think they go to these locations for that long. So like they fit everything into like 3 days and like pile it on.
Well, just imagine like an actual production though. Setting up, lighting, like,
right?
Yeah.
But I'm thinking
those guys are pros at doing that fast.
But and the crew probably gets there well ahead of time. They set everything up. Zach just shows up and does his thing. Like it's probably. I don't think Zach and like the investigators spend that much time in the location.
Yeah.
But anyway, we made it to the end of episode 3 of season 29, which means we have 2 more episodes.
Wait, you gotta do our...
I know, I'm about to do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Apologies. I'll shut my mouth.
Somebody's excited.
Well, I thought you were signing us off.
I wasn't.
I think somebody's excited because somebody's going to change their mind about this location.
All right, let's just do it. Okay, y'all, it's time for Haunted or Hoax. What did everybody think? And we're going to start with Mel because she's excited to tell us.
I say haunted.
What?
Yeah.
Y'all, you hear that?
Yeah.
haunted.
Or as haunted as I get, I don't fucking know what's going on. It's either haunting or
drugs,
asbestos,
or CO2 leaks.
Yeah, like haunting or lead in the pipes kind of weirdness up there.
Okay, out of all the things, so let's dive into this a little bit. Out of all of the things, what are the things that really made you pause and go, what the hell is happening?
This stick figure thing with Zak was weird to me. Like, I was like, what the fuck is that? That, and then the chair shit was weird.
The fact that Gary had no context and walked over to the chair and sat in it. That was like,
I don't know how I feel about the spirit box stuff yet. I think I struggle with having like a true reaction to that because I can't comprehend how it works, so I don't know how to react to it.
I think once we get our hands on one and test it out and like try to debunk it ourselves and, you know, along with the Ovulus, and just, I think we'll just kind of have a better understanding.
Yeah. But it was like creepy. I was creeped out. I was like, this is fucking creepy. Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely an interesting episode. I definitely enjoyed going back and watching the original episode to compare it to this one. I think if you're going to watch this episode, I recommend doing that because it really does add the additional context. And if for no other reason than to just see that really terrible headless mannequin thing. The recreation of that was just, it was jarring. I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah. Well, and see Patrick Smith in
action. Yeah. See him doing the thing he loved to do.
Honor him.
Yeah.
You know, I will say I say haunted, but I don't think that the haunting is the reason for Patrick's.
I mean,
with Patrick.
I do believe that I think if people struggle with depression or other mental health issues, I think there are negative energies that can torture them and push them over the edge. And I think that may have been what happened with Patrick. Like, I think he may have already been struggling. And then if he did have any sort of ability and he's hearing all these things, it was too much. And he just wanted to silence it. Like, that's what I'm just thinking, like, I can't even imagine if there's something happening inside of my head and I cannot make it stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. My thing is like, why would you not want to move?
Yeah.
Maybe he couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
You know? There's a lot of reasons why somebody might not move. He also, I don't know, he was an Irish immigrant. I don't know, like, how he was here. So there could have been a handful of reasons for why he was staying where he was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think haunted. I don't know if Patrick was the one haunting, but haunted.
Oh yeah, I didn't think it was. It felt like two separate things to me. It felt like
the third floor was just creepy.
Yeah, it felt like the third floor was a whole thing, and then there was the Patrick element.
Yeah. Which maybe they should have just focused on Patrick. I feel like that might have been better. To respect him, if they were going to do that.
Lore.
And I say haunted, but I do think Patrick was there.
Do you think he was going up the contours of Zak's back?
No. But when he came through on the spirit box, it did sound like him.
It did. I want to know who the female voice was. I would love for them to like try to find out, just because her voice was so distinct.
It is also interesting in my, 2 episodes of experiencing a spirit box, how if there are multiple spirits in a room, it seems like one of them it's like a telephone. Like one of them's on the phone and they're like, hold on, I'll get him. Or no, they just left.
It's weird.
Well, it's cut. I think it's because they're kind of like riding a radio wave. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that's how it. I think because they're pulling the radio waves out of the. Isn't
No.
that how it works?
I mean, that's how they
think
communicate, like a phone, like how we communicate, but like we're not riding however the fuck phone works.
No, Mel's point, that is how it sounds. Like, not just in this episode, in other episodes too. Like, some of them will come in or they'll say like, oh, I have to go get so-and-so. It is very much like a telephone. I don't know. I don't know the mechanism for that. But I've said the word mechanism like 5 times in this episode. I'm sorry, everybody. It's like on the tip of the teeth, tip of the tongue.
Tip of the teeth, tip of the tongue.
When you say it's like a telephone, are you saying like they're not close by?
No, I mean, it's like if
only
you and I were in the
talk
same
time.
I guess I treat it like old school, having a landline and somebody called and you picked up and they're like, can I talk?
Hold on, let me go get my mom.
Hold on, let me get my mom. Like they're in the same room as you, but they're using something to talk to the person that's not there. It's almost like there's this like metaphorical
like
waiting room. The little girl, they said she left.
Yeah,
she's not here anymore. Like that's when it like all those types of
like they're not talking over each other.
No, you'll never hear 2 talk at the same time.
What if you had 2 spirit boxes?
Maybe they're just really polite
at the same time.
No, unlike us, we talk over each other constantly.
At least we all do it, and it's not like over.
Okay, so that is episode 3. We are done. We have 2 more episodes for this season. But before we go, I just wanted to give a shout out to a few of our favorite pods who have inspired us and assisted us as we've been getting started. So time for some shout outs. Huge shout out to Laura and Kristen over at Reality Rewind, Amy Archer and Amanda Lipnack Radell of Little Miss Recap, and Jill and Pat at Herdat Media for their consultation and advice. And I was specifically inspired to start this show because of an episode of And That's Why We Drink, as well as episodes of Morbid and Shit Talk with Ace and Caitlin. So just wanted to give them all shout outs because I need to give honor where honor is due. And we would not have started any of this if it weren't for the help of all these people and their inspiration. This month has definitely taught us how tough podcasting can be, especially while we're juggling full-time jobs, children, and spouses. But we are more inspired than ever. And we can't wait to continue this journey with you guys.
Yeah.
So
see you in the shadow.
Somebody's excited.
I forgot about the until next time.
We'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.